call to order the Verona Common Council Monday, October 8th, 2018 meeting at 7:02 p.m. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll have the roll.
Alderperson Cronin.
Present.
Alderperson Gaskell.
Here.
Alderperson Journey.
Here.
Alderperson Kemp.
Here.
Alderperson Cole.
Here.
Alderperson Posey.
Here.
Alderperson Reiki.
Here.
Alderperson Touche is absent and excused.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have public comment. If anyone from the public wishes to speak, if you could introduce yourself and give your address, that would be great. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tom Mathias. I live in the town of Verona on Nordell Hill Road off of Shady Oak Lane. I'm here to talk about the proposed annexation of the Purple Cow site. 2 years ago, the city and town entered into a boundary agreement. Among the provisions of that boundary agreement, one is to allow the city to do annexations that create town islands. Without a boundary agreement, the city would not be able to do that, and the Purple Cow site annexation would create a town island, so that the city is using the boundary agreement to its advantage. Another provision of the boundary agreement is that when a parcel is annexed, the full width of the highway, the town highway right-of-way that abuts that parcel is required to be included in the annexation. The Purple Cow annexation only includes up to the center line of Range Trail Road, so if you adopt the annexation as recommended by the Plan Commission, you would be inconsistent with the boundary agreement. If you want to honor the boundary agreement, you could you could reject the annexation request and go back and ask for another one that does annex the full width of Range Trail. That would take more time and expense for the city. Another option would potentially to be a jurisdictional transfer agreement to move roads from the town to the city. You can you don't have to annex them. You can do a jurisdictional transfer agreement. So before finalizing the annexation, the city could annex the full width of Range Trail next to the Purple Cow site. And then when the annexation of the Purple Cow site goes through, you wouldn't need to change it. I mentioned this to Adam Sayer about 3 weeks ago. He said that from a law enforcement perspective, it's simpler to have the west side of Range Trail be in the city and the east side of Range Trail be in the town. Because then there's a clear dividing line along the Cathedral Point subdivision and the Purple Cow site. If you're concerned about law enforcement and you want to honor the boundary agreement, you could do a jurisdictional transfer for the full width of Range Trail from the Cathedral Point subdivision north. And then there'd be a clear dividing line for law enforcement just south of, or just where the Cathedral Point subdivision begins. Currently, for example, the speed limit on the town portion of Range Trail is 45 miles per hour. And the speed limit on the city portion of Range Trail is 35 miles per hour. Annexing the full portion would also be consistent with the apparent intent of the boundary agreement. The boundary agreement says to annex the full width of the town road, and that provides for city jurisdiction over traffic to and from development in these annexed areas. There is obviously an expense with owning a road, but the majority of traffic, presumably on this portion of Range Trail, would be coming from Cathedral Point and would be coming from the eventual public works facility on the Purple Cow site. So there's also a fairness argument to who should maintain that portion of the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who wish to speak?
Lori Everett, and I live at 202 South Jefferson Street. And I'm just coming up to ask the council to consider voting yes to having citizens being allowed to keep pet chickens. I think it's a great idea. I wish that I could have had them when my children are young. They're almost gone, so it's kind of too late for us, but I think it's a great idea. Oh, and I do have one question about the Lincoln Street apartments, and I'm glad that there will be a map. I couldn't remember what the landscaping design was like, and I'm hoping that there might be some sort of landscape or vegetation barrier between my neighbors' houses and the buildings. I think that would be in everybody's best interest to have something nicer to look at than each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members from the public who wish to speak? All right, I counted off my seven seconds. Last chance. All right. With that, we will move on to approval of the minutes from the September 24th, 2018 Common Council meeting. Questions, comments, motions?
Move approval.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second? Second by Alder Rieke. Last chance for corrections to the minutes. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the September 24th, 2018 Common Council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. Next up, we will have, under Mayor's business, the appointment of the Common Council member to the Verona Area School District Attendance Area Advisory Committee. I trust you all saw the email from School Superintendent Jean Gurel. If we want to talk about it, we could, or if there's someone who, wants to do it, I guess now would be the time to say something, and we could continue discussions as well. Alder Cole.
I didn't get a chance to cross the dates with but are some of them appear to be on Mondays? Did you know if any of them were on the same Monday nights as our council meetings?
I did not check.
Because that would be a potential conflict.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
so it looks like
Yep.
yes, at least for the one in November is
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think though, without speaking on behalf of the school board, I think that even if you couldn't attend every meeting, I think if you could attend most of them, it would be worth it. Anyone have any interest?
If it comes down to it, maybe we can split it up. I mean, it's a fairly significant chunk of time for one person really to dedicate to it. Maybe we can talk amongst ourselves and see if we can, someone take 4, someone take 4, someone take 4. If they're amenable to that, I don't know, but.
I think that sounds reasonable to me. I can get back to Dean and then get back to the council.
And I know I'm at this time only serving on one committee, so I would be willing to step up and be a part of that.
Great. Seeing consensus? All right. Next, we will move on to item 7, announcements. Does anyone from the council have any announcements? Alder Kemp?
Yes, I was just going to make an announcement. On October 14th, I believe, there's going to be a fundraiser at the Wisconsin Brewing Company for a nonprofit called We Believe in Katie. Katie Udelhofen Clark was a young woman who went to school K through 12 in Verona who passed away from leukemia. And so a few years ago, I grew up across the street from her and helped her parents start that. So there's going to be an event out at Wisconsin Brewing Company. I can't remember the time, but I'm sure we could have that posted somewhere. It's going to be a good event, and people should consider coming out to that. All the proceeds, of course, go to cancer research and Make-A-Wish. Thank you.
Thank you. Other announcements from the council? Seeing none, next up we'll have the administrator's report.
Thank you. I wanted to remind council that October 15th, next Monday, we will have a committee of the whole regarding economic development and information regarding community development authorities. October 9th through 12th, there will be a pilot project that will be initiated on Wayland Road. There will be a temporary bump out added to the crosswalk near the elementary school on Wayland Road. It's going to do a number of things. It'll bring attention to the crosswalk itself, but it'll also be a pilot to see what impact reducing down the crosswalk will have on people walking across the crosswalk. It'll allow drivers to be more cognizant of the crosswalk and pedestrians. The bump out will reduce the width of the street. Right now the street is 42 feet wide. It'll reduce the street down to 28 feet in that area. And this is again a pilot project that will be taking place between October 9th and 12th. Gives us an idea of looking at different pedestrian projects that can be done across the city to help improve crosswalks and pedestrian transportation. Also, the Dane County Emergency Management wants us to encourage residents to sign up for the county's emergency alert system to receive emergency notifications to their cell phones. The department has used the alert system this summer for multiple notifications, including evacuations from the recent gas leak and flooding. I have posted this on the city's webpage and Facebook. Wanted to just get it out another format to kind of encourage people to go to the Dane County Emergency Management page and add their information in, their cell phone information in, so they can get updates whether they're at home or not. And that's all I have today.
Thank you. Questions on the administrator's report? I'll just say myself, I think the pilot program is an excellent idea. I think it's a good way to do a low stakes thing just for a couple days, see how people respond, see if it's good for pedestrians and good for the city. And if it turns out it's not, then it's something we tried and it's very low cost and it's just something really good, I think. Seeing no questions or comments, next up we'll have the engineer's report. Mr. Mont? Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. By way of update, the bike ped projects continue forward. The box culvert extension is done with the exception of the railing. Curb and gutter has gone down, and if the rain will let up a little bit this week, they'll do some fine grading, get ready for some asphalt, sidewalk, fence installation, and restoration. Obviously, the more it rains, the harder it's going to be for the contractor to get out there. The County M reconstruction, the utilities for the city of Verona are done for this year. The sewer and water that they could do is installed. They'll pick that back up in the spring when they start the road work again. The Fireman's Park work continues on, obviously with the demolition, the grading, and the utility work. And AECOM is working towards completion of the county PD from M to Woods Road plans that are due to the city in December.
Thank you. Questions on the engineer's report? Seeing none, we move on to item 10A, Finance Committee. Alder Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to first start by making a motion regarding the payment of the bills in the amount of $726,774.07.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second? Second by Alder Cronin. Alder Kemp.
Yes, just for the sake of discussion, Mr. Mayor, we have a large payment in the amount of $366,487.81 for the bike ped project. There was nothing else really that was that overwhelming this month.
You've heard the explanation. Questions or comments on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing none, all those in favor of payment of the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further, Alder Kemp?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Next up, we will have 10B, Public Safety and Welfare Committee. Alder Rieke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under item 10B1, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-923, amending section 10.126 and 10.127 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Verona relating to parking on Commerce Parkway.
Motion by Alder Ricky, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Cole. Alder Ricky?
Due to vehicles parking along Commerce Parkway that interfere with local business operations and blocking driveways, this amendment changes the restricted parking along Commerce Parkway. Amended parking restrictions eliminate time of day parking restrictions and add permanent no parking on the west side of Commerce Parkway for a distance of 493 feet and on the east side of Commerce Parkway for a distance of 405 feet. This is a compromise.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Alder Cronin?
Not being very familiar with that area, what kind of vehicles are creating the problem and where are they gonna park now?
So the vehicles that,
Chief
okay.
Chief Coughlin, if you'd.
The increased business from the Duluth Trading Company approximately a year ago has created a lot of parking issues there, where simply put, their lot and the business, they do not have enough parking for the number of staff that they have. So the cars are parking on the street. We've been working off and on for some time with the landlord of that property and trying to find some alternative measures, and made several recommendations. None of them have come to fruition yet. They continue to park there. We've had to make adjustments or an ordinance several months ago to help Pure Sweet Honey because they continue to block their loading dock. So we kind of graduated the restrictions only to the extent that were necessary, we believed, to continue to maintain as much on-street parking as we could. And then the cars, of course, shifted to the other side of the street and further north and became a problem for Beal Enterprises at 529 Commerce Parkway. So we're addressing that issue. We're in essence, going to shift the cars further to the east of the business, in front of and further to the east of the business, and hopefully provide some more incentive for them to try to find some alternative parking locations. We have a few suggestions that we've made, but again, to date, they continue to park in front of the driveways and mailboxes and create a problem for the businesses to get in and out with their trucks.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of ordinance number 18-923, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Ricky.
Under item 10B2, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-924, amending titles 7 and 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Verona, Wisconsin, relating to the keeping of chickens and to the keeping and raising of chickens.
Motion by Alder Ricky, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cole, I think. Alder Ricky?
Thank you. The proposed municipal code text amendment will amend Title 7 and Title 13 that would allow for the keeping and raising of chickens. In general, persons wishing to keep and raise chickens would need to obtain a license from the city clerk and conform to the zoning regulations, to include obtaining an annual license prior to January 1st of each year or within 30 days of acquiring the chicken or chickens, providing proof of livestock premises registration with the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Applicants renting property that wish to obtain a chicken keeping license shall obtain written permission from the owners of the property. Providing proof of written notification to all property owners within 25 feet of the applicant's property, stating the applicant's intent to keep chickens on his or her property. Notification is not required for renewal of a license. Chickens shall be permitted on lots where the principal structure is a single-family detached dwelling, unit, duplex, twin house, a school, or a group daycare center. No more than 4 female chickens may be kept on a property. Roosters are prohibited. The sale of chickens, meat, eggs, or other chicken byproducts is prohibited. The slaughtering of chickens is prohibited. Chickens shall be kept in the chicken coop or the chicken run at all times. The chicken coop shall be located only in rear yards and meet all setback requirements. The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on October 1st, 2018, and discussed the proposed changes. Some Plan Commission members expressed concerns about the notification requirement of the ordinance, while others thought the notification was appropriate. The Plan Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the zoning text amendment.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Alder Cole and then Alder Journey.
I had discussed earlier in public safety that I was also slightly opposed to the notification requirement. My thought was making it a recommendation rather than a requirement. Well, city staff did have some good reasoning behind making it a requirement, so I mean, I think hearing from them would be important too. But my thought was, I mean, I understand you want to notify your neighbors. That's the right thing to do. Making a requirement, I didn't know if that would cause issues between neighbors, and nothing can really come of it as far as notifying your neighbor either way. They can't do anything about it either way. But again, you know, city staff did have some reasons why they thought it was appropriate, so I think it would be good to hear from them as well to make a decision about striking this or not.
Thank you. I'll add them to the queue, actually. Alder Journey and then city
So
staff.
I'd like to speak in support of the ordinance with whatever notification issues are there. But last week I attended a conference on soil science at Gustavus Adolphus College, and it talked about how chickens keep yards and gardens healthy through their organic fertilization. Chicken waste is an excellent fertilizer for lawn and garden. It breaks down naturally and provides valuable nutrients for lawn and garden. And it compost it with leaves or bedding and chicken waste. It also provides for soil aeration. Chickens naturally scratch and dig the soil for forage and bugs. And during this process, mulch and compost are spread, soil layers are mixed, better than harmful tilling, and the ground loosens. It is a natural weed and insect control method. It controls weeds and insects in the yard. So in lieu of that, I would support the ordinance. And then also, if free-range chickens have come into the discussion at all, but at least if there's a garden on the property, that the chickens be allowed in the garden to do their what they can provide to the ecology for that garden. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, city staff, Mr. Sayer or Chief Coughlin, if you wanted to add anything in light of Alder Cole's comments.
Thank you. So we had the public safety meeting tonight, and there was a 2-0 recommendation on the ordinance. I think as we talked about the notification requirements, you know, staff is, I guess, from our standpoint, kind of trying to be proactive in essence of, you know, hoping that neighbors would contact their neighbors without this requirement, but unfortunately that doesn't occur in a lot of the situations. So when we get phone calls, there's a lot of phone calls I know I get, and I know the police department gets as well too, where one of the first questions I'll ask is, have you actually talked to your neighbor yet? And the answer we get usually is, no, I haven't. And you know, part of the reason behind kind of having this notification is to, one, force people to go out and let their neighbor know, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and I think there's, you know, if someone has a concern with it, there might be a way of possibly addressing that concern of maybe if the coop was in a different spot in the yard, you know, before they build this, you know, a coop on their property, that there could be some issues they could work out ahead of time. You know, quite honestly as well, one of the points brought up at the Plan Commission meeting was if there is a covenant in place on the property, at least would again have, the person would have notice of that covenant potentially from the neighbor before they would actually invest in the chickens and invest in the coop, to find out that the covenants potentially would not allow it as well too. So I think from a staff standpoint though, you know, we're going to get potentially the calls as it is. You know, from our standpoint, sometimes it's easier to get that call when the chickens are out in the yard running around, because that's the call we're going to get without the notification. We're still going to get complaints from probably a few people saying, my neighbor wants to have chickens, how can you allow this to happen? There's going to be some people out there with that as well too. And you know, we're just kind of looking at more of the proactive standpoint of, you know, it doesn't hurt to have people communicate with their neighbors, say, this is what we're gonna be doing. And part of this as well too is that, you know, chickens haven't been allowed in the city before. You know, we thought it's a change that's happening, you know, not everyone reads the Vernon Press, not everybody listens to these meetings as well. It would give people better notice, at least for the time being, of, okay, this is going to be happening in my neighborhood. Now, you know, one of the comments I made at the meeting as well is, you know, maybe after a year, there's 20, 30 licenses in the city. Maybe at that point, you know, this goes away. People understand this is what's happening in the community, but this is a significant change that, you know, there's no conditional use permit. It doesn't come before the plan commission. It doesn't come before the council. You know, we didn't see much harm with having it in there. Quite honestly, I mean, if there's a big concern from the council, we don't see it as a big deal either way. We thought it was more of the attempt to be proactive and hopefully encouraging people to have that conversation, actually requiring it, versus the reactive conversations that we deal with on an everyday basis. So we don't have a strong opinion, but obviously we recommended for having the notification in there. If the council wants to make a change tonight, you know, I'm not gonna say too much besides what I've said now. So, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Given what you've just said, my initial reaction was, since the neighbors can't do anything about it, why make it a requirement? But I think I would be okay with keeping that in if we do agree to come and revisit this in a year or so. But my question is there anything in the ordinance about whether the coops are permanent or movable? I know there was a question of how far away from property lines they needed to be.
So they have to be 15 feet back. I think part of the intent on the runs, especially, that those would be movable. I know kind of the Alderperson Journey's comment of the intent of those, were some of those that we've seen online are actually on wheels that can be rolled across the yard. So especially with the runs, we see those as potentially being movable, of kind of picking that up, moving different spots in the yard, because to the point of Alderperson Journey as well, just the bugs and what they're eating as well, you do have to move that around a little bit. The coops itself, I suppose they could potentially be moved. I believe with some of these, though, it comes down to some of the winter requirements, and I'm not up to speed fully on chickens, and that's why I'm looking at Alderperson Cole. But I know there are potentially some heating requirements as far as that, and there could be potentially an electrical of some type as well, too, depending on how it's designed. Potentially, it could be moved if it was designed in the correct fashion. I mean, there's a lot of creative designs out there. But more importantly, from just a code standpoint, it would have to meet that 15-foot setback and also just be in the backyard. But if it would shift around slightly, as long as it's within the parameters there, I don't have a concern with that.
Alder Gaskell?
Yes, if we are keeping this requirement in here, I think we need to be explicit about what proof of written notification is. I mean, does that mean you've printed off your letter and you've given it to your neighbor? I mean, how do you prove that you've done that? Is it certified mail? I just need to be really explicit about what we're calling proof, I think.
Yeah, that was an item that was talked about in great detail by staff as well, and quite honestly, you know, as they signed the license application, which is in the packet, I believe there is a statement in there that they're basically stating that they have provided proof to their neighbors. Ultimately, if we found out that did not occur, I mean, they potentially would be in violation of their application, and we could potentially look at the revocation process at that point. But we did talk about, is it a certified mail? Is it a certified letter? Then you're talking costs. You're talking additional dollars as well. I think part of the reason the 25 feet is hopefully people are going to come in and say, I need a list of all properties within 25 feet of my house. And our intention is, as staff, to provide that to those people coming in so they can provide that notification. So that was kind of part of the 25-foot requirement, is most people are going to come to us and say, okay, give me my list of my people, which we'll be happy to do. And I think, from a strictly proof standpoint, there's nothing foolproof unless you're having people sign things. But we just thought that burden was pretty significant for something that, people can't stop this from happening. It's more of just, once again, the good nature, letting people know that this is going to be occurring. So if somebody did come in and falsify their application, I mean, we could potentially revoke. I don't think we would, but depending on the circumstances, that's an option. But if we got strictly down to wanting explicit proof, there's going to be some cost there, and it's going to be significant to those mailings. And it's going to be on the applicant of not the city to do that.
I guess I was looking at more from not that people would falsify, it would be that the neighbors said, I didn't get anything, so.
That's going to happen, I think. And I think as long as we have the list, and as long as, you know, we know what they've done with that, it's going to be good. We also talked about at Public Safety about staff would draft a template letter to give the people. The letter would include just how many chickens people are going to have, the person's going to have, the neighbor, the address, just letting them know kind of the intent of what they'll be doing. And then obviously also their name on the bottom and probably some contact information if they have any questions. So we'll draft some type of boilerplate letter that we can hand out to people as a form letter so they can, if they need help kind of sending a letter to their neighbors and they say, what should I say in this letter? We'll have a general letter. This is something you can send to people, and it's going to be basically just fill in the blanks of your name, your contact information, number of chickens, and we're going to try to make it easy for people. Okay. But we're going to have a situation where somebody does say, I didn't get a letter, and I think, you know, if we have 3, 4, 5 people or a whole neighborhood saying that, okay, maybe that's true. But if it's one person, we'll see what happened there.
So in your template letter, would you please provide language to the fact that this is a courtesy, it's part of the ordinance for keeping chickens, but there's nothing that the neighbor can do about it, and so then you're not, you know, having people call you after they get the.
Yeah, we can do that. We'll have something in there, and you know, one of the requirements of the licensing, as well as Mr. Kleinmeyer pointed out, is a copy of the letter that was sent to the neighbors. So let them provide proof to us what they sent to the neighbors. But we can put some language in there that is stern enough, but not overbearing, a sense of there's nothing you can do about it. But we'll make it.
I'm
we'll
just
put
trying to make
something
this
in
easy for you too, sitting right there.
We appreciate
the
that.
most explicit you can make this. You know.
Alder Cole, then Alder Journey.
I mean, I would say in lieu of, when we discussed this at Public Safety, and I said I was initially like, you know, kind of against notification, but I do want to make this enforcement as easy as possible for city staff, and if they do believe that this will cause them to get less phone calls and have less issues, at least for like a trial year period, I think that it's appropriate because it is new, and yeah, people might not know what's going on, so I think it's a good discussion, and I think it'd be fine.
Alder Journey.
So I agree as far as the neighbor of the notification of the neighbors, and maybe even proof of notification, so that when they bring the application forward, they can actually demonstrate that they have contacted the neighbors and gotten their approval. And then also some sort of language to prevent animal cruelty, if that would ever be a potential.
We can put some. We can reference some existing language that we have in our ordinance on the license application. We can add that to the application and probably deal with it that way. That's probably the best way.
And I do agree that if there's any failure to stick with the ordinance, that it does fall upon the applicant as far as a penalty.
Alder Posey, and then Alder Cole.
First, thank you so much, because this was the biggest question that I had reading through the ordinance, was around the notification piece and how was it, what recourse did neighbors have if they disagreed with it? So thank you for actually explaining that really it's just a notification, and out of respect for your neighbors, that's what this is for. And I maybe say if we could look at the wording of it to make sure that it's really clear that this is a, you know, courtesy notification, maybe even calling it something along those lines, so that way it's really making people aware that this is being proactive on your neighbor's part to say, hey, I'm going to be keeping chickens, here's my plan, you know, let's get along. The other question that I have, and we might want, if we're staying on recourse for a moment, but we can revisit this, was the 15-foot coop height maximum. My understanding is that there are 4 chickens, and this ordinance said that the max height for a coop was 15 feet in height, and I know that they need some roof space and things, but that seems really high in my mind. And I don't know a lot about chickens, so I'm open to education. So.
Sure, so the 15 feet actually is the same requirement for a shed in the city. So what we kind of found online as we looked at things, there were a lot of people that sometimes converted sheds into
Yes,
coops.
yeah.
Or they would build half of the shed as a shed and half it would be as a coop. So more from a consistency standpoint, we were just trying to keep it consistent what we have right now in the city.
That makes sense, thank you.
Thank you. Alder Cole.
I have a question regarding Alderperson Journey's comment about the animal cruelty. Were you specifically stating that you want somebody to have said they read? Because I believe animal cruelty is already addressed in Title VII, just as a general animal cruelty ordinance. Did you want them to like prove that they have read that and they understand the animal cruelty ordinance, or?
I was not aware of that animal cruelty ordinance, but just so long as it's covered in the case that it should happen, or that it should be observed.
In the opinion of city staff, is that covered?
I think the best way to do that is just referencing that on the license application. And we've got other references in the application as well to certain sections of the code. And I think we would just add something into the bottom of the application.
Okay. Other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of ordinance number 18-924, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further, Alder Ricky?
No, that is all.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Plan Commission. Alder Gaskell.
Mr. Sayer will be handling it tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. The first item is a certified survey map approving to create 2 lots at the northeast corner of Liberty Drive and Clarity Street. The proposed CSM will create 2 lots in Liberty Business Park. Lot 1 will be acquired by the Attainment Company in the near future, while Lot 2 will remain vacant. The Plan Commission discussed the certified survey map on October 1st of 2018 and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval.
Thank you for the explanation. Motions from the council. Alder Gaskell.
All right, I would like to move approval of resolution number R-18-047, approving a certified survey map to create 2 lots at the northeast corner of Liberty Drive and Clarity Street.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution R-18-047, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. The next item is a resolution for a precise implementation plan located in the west end, south of West Verona Avenue, west of West End Circle, and east of Wall Street that will allow for the construction of 28,849 square feet of commercial space. The proposed PIP will allow for the construction of 28,849 square feet of commercial space in the west end. The Plan Commission held a required public hearing on October 1st of 2018 and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval of the PIP.
Thank you for that explanation. Any motions? Alder Gaskell.
I'd like to move approval of resolution number R-18-048, approving a precise implementation plan located in the west end, south of West Verona Avenue, west of West End Circle, and east of Wall Street that would allow for the construction of a 28,849 square foot of commercial space.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. Any further discussion on the motion? Alder Posey.
I had a quick question regarding if this has been come prior, and somebody could inform me, help me out. The traffic plan for that area, knowing that we've got the high school coming in there, as well as that epic end of Verona right now, and the face of Verona as people are coming into town. What would be their first impression of our town?
Mr. Sayer.
Sure. So from a traffic standpoint, this development was incorporated into the school district's traffic impact analysis that was completed about a year ago, I want to say. So this was taken into account into those improvements that the school district will be making out in the west end. So From a traffic standpoint, staff is comfortable because it's consistent with what was in that TIA. I think from kind of an entry point into Verona, obviously, when you get off the highway and you make that turn, this is going to have a very strong commercial presence along West Verona Avenue. From a staff perspective, they're great-looking buildings. They're high quality, and it's exciting to actually see something happen out there, since the property does have a very long history to it, going back about 11, 12 years from when T-Wall owned the property up until now. So I know from a staff standpoint, we're excited to finally see something happen here.
And a follow-up question with that, have the staff seen photos of what the rear facades to the building, the street-facing sides? Because I saw the photos in the plan, and they were all of the parking lot facing side, not what would be facing the road.
Yep, I believe those are in the packet as well. I'm trying to
Okay,
pull
I
it
will.
up here as I'm stalling. Bear with me 1 second. So, I mean, you're going to have 3 buildings along West Verona Avenue. They had in the packet there elevations on all 4 sides. So if you go to, and it's a lot of sheets here, but if you go to, it's going to be probably a 2D rendering, I believe. But they did have it on both sides.
Basic.
Thank you. So Mr. Seeley said pages 27 and 29 have the elevations that face towards the road itself. So they're in black and white gray, but in essence kind of mimic, very similar to what you see on the south side is what you'll see on the north side.
Thank you. That was one of my other concerns, was what were people going to see? Was it going to be a cinder block wall like you see on the back of a lot of commercial buildings, or will it look nice? So thank you.
No, you'll have windows there. It'll look very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of resolution R-18-048, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance approving the rezoning of 102-104 Lincoln Street from suburban industrial to urban residential. The proposed zoning map amendment would rezone 102-104 Lincoln Street from suburban industrial to urban residential. The rezoning will accommodate a future 90-unit multifamily building on this parcel. The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on October 1st of 2018 and voted 4-1 to recommend for the approval of the zoning map amendment.
Potential motions. Alder Gaskell.
Thank you. I would like to move approval of ordinance number 18-925, approving the rezoning of 102 and 104 Lincoln Street from suburban industrial to urban residential.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cronin. Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of, am I getting my mic right? All those in favor of ordinance number 18-925, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer, and if you could include with this explanation from the public comment.
Thank you. Next item is a resolution approving a precise implementation plan located at 102-104 Lincoln Street that would allow for the construction of 90 multifamily units. The proposed PIP will allow for the construction of a 90-unit multifamily building. The Plan Commission held a required public hearing on October 1st of 2018 and voted 4-1 to recommend for the approval of the PIP. Regarding the landscaping on the property, there was a landscaping plan that was included kind of in the submittal and also in your packets. The applicant has landscaping along the western elevation, which abuts the kind of residential area to the west. Further, the building itself is set back a considerable distance from that west property line, and between the building and that property line is a stormwater facility as well too. So there'll be a significant buffer with the space and also with some of the plantings. The plantings are a mixture of both evergreen and also deciduous trees. think as I did a quick look at the plan, looks like some of those trees on the west property line are tamarack trees, so those do lose their needles in the fall, but there'll be sufficient screening there for those adjacent properties.
Thank you for that explanation. Motions from the council. Alder Gaskell.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to move approval of resolution number R-18-049, approving a precise implementation plan located at 102-104 Lincoln Street that would allow for the construction of 90 multifamily units.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of resolution number R-18-049, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next up, Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. So the next 5 items on the agenda are all related to each other. We can either take those one by one, or I can do kind of an overview of all of them, because they all kind of go hand in hand, I guess. Is there a preference by the council to how you want this handled?
I think a general overview, we would still have to do separate motions.
You would, yes.
Okay.
So Andy, if you could put the laptop up on the screen, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so the property in question that we're looking at is the Purple Cow property, which is kind of highlighted in on the screen before you. It's this, you can't see that. It's the property right here. We're also looking at some lands that are also part of the Cathedral Point subdivision too. So the first item on the agenda would be the annexation. This is annexing the Purple Cow property, also annexing the right-of-way for 18151, and also portion the western side of Range Trail. The intent is I think the council knows of the Purple Cow property, at least for the majority of it. This would be the future public works facility on this 19.7 acre piece of land. The remaining of the property would be developed by Veridian as single-family homes. So to accomplish that, we'd have to zone the Purple Cow property for the future public works site, which is to be zoned public institutional, and then rezone the lands that are remaining kind of on this map here in the orange and yellowish color to both neighborhood residential and community residential to allow Veridian to build single-family homes. To accomplish that, we also have a CSM. It's a 3-lot CSM. Lot 1 would be retained by the city. Lot 2 and Lots 3 would then be owned by Veridian. As part of this project, we would also discontinue and vacate a portion of Cathedral Point Drive. That would be done during the platting process. And as part of that, the new right-of-way for this looping kind of street here would be platted as part of the preliminary plat and final plat. So for this, we have the annexation of the Purple Cow property. We have the zoning, which would kind of mimic what's on the screen before you right now. We have that CSM, which is a 3-lot CSM. Lot 1 would go to the city. Lots 2 and 3 would go to Veridian. And then right after the CSM, you'd have the preliminary plat and the final plat, which would create the 21 lots on the screen before you, and also the 2 outlots. So that's the brief overview. I can kind of read the annexation portion here just real briefly. The proposed annexation would add approximately 32 acres of land to the city. The proposed annexation is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. The city and Veridian Homes are in the process of acquiring the Purple Cow property, which is located in the town of Verona. The Purple Cow property will be developed in the future for a public works facility and single-family homes. The Plan Commission discussed the annexation October 1st of 2018 and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval of the annexation, subject to the City of Verona and MREC VH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property. So that's a condition that you're going to see carried out through all 5 of these motions. In essence, none of these approvals go into effect until the city and Veridian acquire the property. So for some reason, if that doesn't happen, none of this would happen. None of this is going to actually go forward tonight. But if it happens, that's the trigger mechanism that makes all these approvals actually valid.
Thank you. Alder Gaskell.
Mr. Sayer, can you please address the public comment that was made earlier regarding town and city boundary agreement?
Sure. So the question at hand is, as part of this project, the annexation would only annex the western portion of Range Trail. And the reason for that is the Cathedral Point subdivision also has only half of that western portion of the road annexed. So if you go down Cathedral Point, or excuse me, Range Trail, the western portion of that road is in the city. The eastern portion is in the town of Verona. So we went forward with this. We did share this with the town planner administrator, and she didn't have any concerns with annexation. And you know, part of the reason we're doing this process this way is from the fact that it's a jurisdictional issue, partially from a public safety standpoint. So if we were to annex the full amount of right-of-way here, you'd have a strip of road that would have part of it, the whole thing would be in the city, and other portions of it would actually be in the town. It becomes an issue for law enforcement, and we've had this issue elsewhere in the city where the question can be raised, potentially a legal argument being raised of, if you pull someone over, are they actually in the city or are they in the town? Or if there's a traffic accident, who's the one that responds? If part of the road's in the town, you know, which municipality is responding? Is it Dane County or is it the city of Verona? So from an administrative standpoint, both the city and the town were comfortable with kind of just annexing this western portion of this road. Second issue, quite honestly, too, is that we have in the past as a city, we've annexed property kind of further down a road. We did this, we annexed all of Nine Mountain Road. We did that as part of when we acquired the pit and annexed a bunch of those properties as part of that process. Unbeknownst to us, when we did that annexation, some of those properties on that road, the property lines went to the center line. So typically in the city, at most of our houses or where you live, the property line, your property line actually goes to the right-of-way line, which is just behind the sidewalk. When you kind of get into these old town roads, sometimes the property line actually goes to the center line of the road. So in that case, in South Nine Mountain, when we annexed that, or excuse me, North Nine Mountain, when we annexed that property, we annexed people's basically. The argument that was raised to us was we were annexing property that we didn't have permission to annex because some of the property lines went to the center line versus to the edge of the road itself. So administratively, that creates issues for both the city and the town because potentially as part of that, we're taking land from the town that they didn't know was being kind of annexed from them. The short of this is that, you know, the language in the boundary agreement, yes, talks about annexing the entire right-of-way. In this situation, it is completely appropriate to just do the western side. It's more from an administrative standpoint and logistical standpoint, and the town, quite honestly, is comfortable with this. You know, if the city and town do want to look at some type of jurisdictional transfer of the roadway, that's a conversation that can be had outside of the annexation itself. But, you know, regarding the annexation, the cleanest way of doing it tonight is to do it this way. And if the town had a concern with it, it was not raised by their administrative planner when we shared this with her, you know, a few weeks ago. So staff is comfortable with what we're doing here tonight. While it doesn't fully line up with that agreement, it's within the spirit of the agreement, and it's the easiest way from a administrative standpoint, a law enforcement standpoint, to do this annexation tonight. And if we didn't do this the way tonight, you'd actually have to potentially deny the annexation and start the whole process back over again. And I quite honestly, this is you know, this is simple to do this way. If we want to clean up more of a who's maintaining the road standpoint from a law enforcement and snow plowing standpoint, that's a separate conversation the city and town can have, and we can work that out after the fact.
Thank you for that explanation. I definitely think that we all want to make sure we maintain a good working relationship with the town. We don't have a motion. Potential motions. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Alder During.
So, just out of curiosity, since part of the road would be City of Verona, part of the road would be town, would there be a shared cost on any of the maintenance or any costs that might come up?
Well, that'd probably be part of that conversation if it went forward with kind of the, you know, jurisdictional transfer of, you know, looking at that. I'm not exactly sure what the Public Works Department does now. Mr. Jacobson, I think, can speak to that, it sounds like.
Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Verona plows and maintains this road on an operational standpoint currently, and since Cathedral Point has basically been platted. So it's been like this for 10 years. So we plow, we maintain this stretch of road on an operational standpoint. Capital, we would maintain our half, and the town would maintain their half. So we're already doing those things.
Thank you.
Answers my question, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Great. Further questions, comments, or motions?
Make a motion, please.
Alder Gaskell.
I'd like to move approval of ordinance number 18-926, approving the annexation of 32,100 and, whoops, is that right? Or is that a period?
That is a period.
Thank you. 32.105 acres of land located at 2159 Range Trail.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Cole. Further questions, comments on the motion? To clarify, was that subject to City of Verona and MRECVH Cathedral Point LLC conditional? The condition that Adam mentioned.
So I have to add that every time?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. As stated.
Alright,
I'll get it the next time.
I will state the conditional to the City of Verona and MRECVH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
I think, Alan, you were asking if the vote is for a 2/3 majority vote for approve it. Is that what you were asking?
No, I was simply asking if we needed to.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Make the motion subject to that.
Okay.
And that's okay with the second as well? Okay. Are we good, Mr. Conmer? Okay. We are discussing ordinance number 18-926. Questions, comments?
Make a motion, please.
You did. I just seeing if Alder Ricky.
Since you opened it up again, I just am curious, what happens if there's a car accident in the middle of the road?
Mr.
As
Sayer?
far as law enforcement?
Quite honestly, I don't know. I mean, they're both going to respond, and that's what usually happens. I think it gets into more probably the paperwork. Who's going to have to process the paperwork, and ultimately, is it Dane County or the city? But I'm not sure what the police department does. We have the same type of issues up at the intersection of County Highway PD and Northern Lights up at where the new traffic signals are up there. So it's the same kind of jurisdictional balance. I know they kind of maintain up there, but I don't know the middle. They're both going to respond and flip a coin. I don't know.
Mr. Kleinmeyer, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to add in relation to the condition of approval, which is going to be the condition of approval for if you vote to approve these different motions, is that process, the conveyance process, is going very well. This is effectively the last step, and as long as the city annexes the land and then has the additional approvals that are identified on your agenda tonight, we fully expect that we will be able to close on the property and then have the city be able to acquire the property for purposes of the new public works facility. And the other thing I just wanted to add was this is a vote that requires, the annexation requires 2/3 approval from the council.
Thank you for that explanation. Any further comments on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of ordinance number 18-926 with the conditions specified, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. We are on to item 6.
Thank you. The next item is an ordinance approving a zoning map amendment to rezone property at 2159 Range Trail to public institutional, neighborhood residential, and community residential. Rezone lot 218 of the Cathedral Point subdivision to neighborhood residential, and rezone out lot 2 of the Cathedral Point subdivision to community residential. The proposed zoning map amendment would rezone the Purple Cow property and portions of the Cathedral Point subdivisions to public institutional, neighborhood residential, and community residential. The public institutional zoning classification is for the future public works facility, and the neighborhood residential and community residential classifications are for the single-family parcels in the Cathedral Point subdivision. The Planning Commission held the required public hearing on October 1st of 2018 and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval of the zoning map amendments, subject to the City of Verona and MRECVH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
Thank you for that explanation. Potential motions. Alder Gaskell.
Thank you. I'd like to move approval of ordinance number 18-927, approving a zoning map amendment to rezone property located at 2159, excuse me, Range Trail to public institutional, neighborhood residential and community residential, rezone lot 218 of the Cathedral Point subdivision to neighborhood residential, and rezone outlot 2 of the Cathedral Point subdivision to community residential, subject to the City of Verona and MREC VH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Ricky. Further questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of ordinance number 18-927 with the conditions specified, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer, item 7.
Thank you. Next item is a resolution approving a certified survey map to create 3 lots at 2159 Range Trail. The proposed CSM will create 3 lots at 2159 Range Trail. Lot 1 will be acquired by the city for the future public works facility. Lot 2 and 3 will be acquired by Viridian Homes for single-family lots. The Plan Commission discussed the certified survey map on October 1st of 2018 and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval, subject to the City of Verona and MREC VH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
Thank you for that explanation. Is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion.
Alder Gaskell.
I move approval of resolution number R-18-050, approving a certified survey map to create 3 lots at 2159 Range Trail, subject to the City of Verona and MREC VH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. Any further questions or comments on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution number R-18-050 with the conditions specified, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer, number 8.
Thank you. We have a resolution approving a preliminary plat for the second addition to Cathedral Point to create 21 lots and 2 outlots located north of East Chapel Royal Drive and east of Steeple Point Way. The proposed preliminary plat will create 21 single-family lots and 2 outlots north of East Chapel Royal Drive and east of Steeple Point Way. The proposed preliminary plat will be the last phase of the development in the Cathedral Point subdivision and will also vacate an unbuilt portion of Cathedral Point Drive. The Plan Commission discussed the preliminary plat on October 1st of 2018 and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval, subject to the City of Verona and MREC VH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
Thank you for that explanation. Alder Gaskell.
Thank you. I'd like to move approval of resolution number R-18-052, approving a final plat for the second addition to Cathedral Point plat to create 21 lots and 2 outlots located north of East Chapel Royal Drive and east of Steeple Point Way, subject to the City of Verona and MREC VH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Ricky. Any further questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none. I beg your pardon. Were we on item 8?
Mm-hmm.
Did your motion say
Did I skip it?
Yep.
18-051 or 52?
I did 5.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's
Move approval of resolution number R-18-051, approving a preliminary plat for the second addition to Cathedral Point to create 21 lots and 2 outlots located north of East Chapel Royal Drive and east of Steeple Point Way, subject to the City of Verona and MREC VH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
Thank you. And that was the understanding of the second as well? Yes. Okay. So we're all on the same page now. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of resolution number R-18-051 say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer, item 9.
Thank you. Resolution approving a final plat for the second addition to Cathedral Point plat to create 21 lots and 2 outlots located north of East Chapel Royal Drive and east of Steeple Point Way. Proposed final plat will create 21 single-family lots and 2 outlots north of East Chapel Royal Drive and east of Steeple Point Way. The proposed final plat will be the last phase of development in the Cathedral Point subdivision and will also vacate an unbuilt portion of Cathedral Point Drive. The Plan Commission discussed the final plat on October 1st of 2018 and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval, subject to the City of Verona and MRECVH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
Thank you for the explanation. Alder Gaskell.
Thank you. I move approval of resolution number R-18-052, approving a final plat for the second addition to the Cathedral Point plat to create 21 lots and 2 outlots located north of East Chapel Royale Drive and east of Steeple Point Way, subject to the City of Verona and MRECVH Cathedral Point LLC acquiring the Purple Cow property.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp, I think. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of resolution number R-18-052 with the conditions specified, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer, item 10.
Thank you. So item 10, 11, and 12, once again, are all jointly kind of related to each other. This is for the well site, the well number 6 site that's located off of Whalen Road and about 800 feet east of Highway 18-151. So we have an annexation of the property, and then we'd have a certified survey map to actually create the lot for it. And the third item is going to be the zoning map amendment to then zone the land that we've just brought into the city and created the lot for. So the first item, which is item 10, is an ordinance approving an annexation of 2.17 acres of land located on the north side of Whalen Road, approximately 800 feet east of US Highway 18-151. The proposed annexation would add approximately 2.17 acres of land to the city. The proposed annexation is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. The city is in the process of acquiring the property in order to construct a municipal well. The Plan Commission discussed the annexation in the October 1st, 2018 meeting and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval of the proposed annexation, subject to the City of Verona acquiring the property. And once again, that's going to be a condition on all three of these motions, is that subject to the city acquiring the property.
Thank you for the explanation. Alder Gaskell.
Thank you. I move approval of ordinance number 18-928, approving the annexation of 2.17 acres of land located on the north side of Whalen Road, approximately 800 feet east of US Highway 18-151, subject to the City of Verona acquiring the property.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by
Journey.
Alder Journey. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of ordinance number 18-928 with the conditions specified, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say no. Seeing none, that motion passes. Mr. Sayer, item 11.
Thank you. This is a resolution approving a certified survey map to create one lot on the north side of Whalen Road, approximately 800 feet east of US Highway 18-151. The proposed CSM will create one lot along Whalen Road. Lot 1 will contain the future municipal well. The CSM also dedicates 0.68 acres of land for right-of-way along Whalen Road and the future North Liberty Drive. The Plan Commission discussed the certified survey map on October 1st of 2018 and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval, subject to the City of Verona acquiring the property.
Thank you for that explanation. Alder Gaskell.
Thank you. I move approval of resolution number R-18-053, approving a certified survey map to one lot on the north side of Whalen Road, approximately 800 feet east of US Highway 18-151, subject to the City of Verona acquiring the property.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Journey. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution R-18-053 with the conditions specified, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Mr. Sayer, item 12.
Thank you. This is an ordinance approving a zoning map amendment to rezone 1.32 acres of land on the north side of Whalen Road, located approximately 800 feet east of US Highway 18-151. The proposed zoning map amendment would rezone land for the future municipal well site to public institutional. The Plan Commission held a required public hearing on October 1st of 2018 and voted 5-0 to recommend for the approval of the zoning map amendment, subject to the city of Verona acquiring the property.
Thank you for that explanation. Alder Gaskell.
Thank you. I move approval of ordinance number 18-929, approving a zoning map amendment to rezone 1.32 acres of land on the north side of Wayland Road, located approximately 800 feet east of US Highway 18151, subject to the city of Verona acquiring the property.
Motion by Alder Gaskell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded, I think, by Alder Kemp. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of ordinance number 18-929 with the conditions specified, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further, Alder Gaskell or Mr. Sayer?
I have none.
Mr. Sayer?
No, that's enough.
With that, we will move on to number 11, old business, which is discussion and possible action regarding an update on the Verona Area School District's new high school project as it relates to the approved VASD development agreement. My understanding is the school board is meeting tonight, and the reason I put on the agenda was just in case they got anything to us last minute. We want to have a good partnership with the school district, and if anything gets held up, it's not going to be because of the city. But I have not heard anything. Mr. Mikrowski, have you heard anything?
No, I have not heard anything.
When I do hear something, I will update the council. With that, we'll move on to number 12, new business, discussion and possible action. Mr. Mikrowski,
Sure.
give us an explanation.
A resolution 18-054 to apply to become a Connect community and enter in a contract agreement with Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation.
Thank you. Could you give us a little bit of
Sure.
overview?
Connect Community is a program through the State Economic Development Corporation that can help facilitate downtown development by providing resources to downtown businesses and owners. The city, working with the Verona Area Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Committee, will support the program with staff time, coordination of activities, and developing the required annual reports. Staff recommends council support the application to become a Connect Community downtown and allow city administrator to enter into agreement with WEDC.
Thank you for that explanation. Alder Kemp.
Couple quick questions. What are the costs involved to the city, and then also what are some of the resources specifically that we would be receiving?
The cost is $200 annually. The resources are training, allowing when a downtown property owner or a business wants some information regarding possible looks of facade improvements. We can work through the WEDC to get some ideas. They can bring down people to do trainings or speaking. It also kind of brings us into the program, kind of promotes our downtown as something that we're trying to develop, trying to get activities. A lot of the things that we're already doing are a part of the program. It's just basically reporting and keeping up and providing that reporting to the state. This is usually the first step toward a Main Street program, but it's basically for networking. The Chamber of Commerce does a great job, but I think through their Economic Development Committee, we can maybe do a little bit more networking directly with downtown businesses and property owners.
Thank you.
Further questions, Alder Kemp? Other questions, comments, potential motions? Alder Journey.
So I'm just curious in terms of the networking, would that include city officials and businesses as well?
Yeah, typically this is networking for businesses to network together in the downtown, trying to come up with different projects, activities, things that they may already be doing. It's just kind of pulling them into the umbrella of a Connect community. But yeah, definitely if there are things going on, we'll provide information out to elected officials to get involved.
Further questions, comments, or motions?
I can make a motion.
Alder Kemp.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion regarding resolution excuse me, resolution number R-18-054, authorizing city staff to apply to become a Connect Community, enter into a contract agreement with Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and provide other related documents.
Motion by Alder Kemp, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Journey. Anything further to add, Alder Kemp?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution number R-18-054, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next up, we will have approval of the operator's licenses.
Thank you. I just need a motion to approve the operator license as presented by the city clerk.
Thank you. Council members?
Move approval.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Rieke. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the operator licenses, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion passes. Next up, we have adjournment. A motion to adjourn would be
Before we end, I'm sorry,
yeah.
for the annexation, Purple Cow property annexation, who was that second? I didn't catch that, and I want to make sure there was one before we end the meeting.
Which one?
The first, the actual annexation.
Yeah, I've got.
You were the second, thank
Yep,
you.
that's what I got.
I just didn't want to end our meeting on time.
No, it's really good to clarify.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on item 13, adjournment. A motion to adjourn would be in order. Motion by Alder Rieke. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alder Cronin. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And we are adjourned. Thank you.